Alright, so in this video I just wanted to share briefly with you some more context and background and information, and also just generally announce the workshop that I'm going to be putting on in mid-November here in Portland. The workshop is titled Intro to Qigong and Nei Gong, and it's going to take place on November the 11th and 12th from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. There's also going to be an introductory free lecture on Thursday the 9th. That is going to be partially introductory lecture overview, help people set the context and understand kind of what they're getting into, and help me set the context and explain a lot of important theory and conceptual basis for the practice, and also just have some tea and kind of hang out and get to know people. They can meet me, get to know me, see if it's the right fit. I can meet them, get to know them, and see if it's going to be the right fit. And that this also kind of connects to the disclaimers and warnings and kind of caveats and really just brutal honesty that I'll kind of have at the end of the video, just because I don't want to waste anyone's time. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. There's really no point in that. And I just also want to set up the right foundations moving forward. So as the title implies, it's Introduction to Qigong and Nei Gong. So basically, what we're going to be doing in the workshop is, number one, understanding and going into the philosophy and application of the Daoist cosmology, the Daoist philosophy. And I guess there's just one caveat and one broad warning that I can have from the very beginning, is that the system and the practice and the methodology is all very specific. It's all very linear, it's all very sequential, and it's all very explicitly thought out. Everything that's in place is in place for a reason as it relates to the larger context, both within the practice, also within the cosmology, also within the practical philosophy. So I say that because a lot of what people are familiar with in terms of Qigong is just sort of like homogenized, I guess is one word, but it's also just like, just visualize this thing and move your arm like this and take a deep breath, and that's Qigong. And that might be that for those people or those approaches and systems, but for me and what I'm talking about, what I'll be sharing, nothing to do with it. Because I'm not saying that to be mean, I'm not saying that to put anyone down or be critical, because it's just a different way of doing it. The reason why I'm saying is because if we look at what the words actually are, what the words actually mean, what the characters for those words are and mean, then it becomes quite clear and not really vague or open to interpretation. For example, if I had a guitar in my hand, it doesn't matter what I visualize or imagine, I can either play a certain level of song or I can't. I could visualize and tell you that I can play at the level of Jimi Hendrix or Yngwie Malmsteen or Steve Vai or a lot of other people, and I'm probably dating myself and how far I've been out of the guitar world, but the point is, I can either play at that level or I can't, and you could basically easily verify that. So what I'm trying to get at is that's a very clear skill. And within that skill, there's very clear and discernible qualities and sub-qualities and sub-skills that are all necessary in order to build up to do a certain thing. So why I say that is because we look at the word Qigong, Gong, the phrase kind of in an almost literal sense, mastery of Qi, or the skill or quality or discipline and work to develop of Qi. So just the word and what it means kind of shows that if you're not building a skill or a quality or moving through a process, then it's not necessarily that thing, because it's not what that word means. So not to get too crazy and nitty-gritty and details, I'm just trying to set context for a little bit about what we'll be doing and why it's important, and and why also one of the number one basic things to do when studying with a new teacher or a new system or any teacher or any system is understanding what words do they use and what do they mean by those words, and how does that relate to their practice, their philosophy, and the practical applications of all these things, and the larger context and process that they're trying to move through. These things all need to go together and line up. Otherwise, it's, at least in my eyes, not. It's not. I just don't like it personally. That's probably the most honest thing I could say about it. It just, for me, doesn't make any sense and doesn't work. So that's why I'm placing an emphasis on understanding theory and concept. And it's not difficult. It's not hard. It's just taking the time to be like, oh, what does this word actually mean? How are we actually using it? How does it relate to our practice? How does it relate to the process we're moving through? And how is it going to change and evolve over time as we develop more skill? And what I mean by that is, let's say you started playing guitar or piano. If you've been playing piano for 10 years and you're like, guys, listen to Chopsticks, listen to whatever other Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you're still performing those songs and you still are at that level, then it's kind of like, what have you been doing for 10 years? Like, I mean, that's cool if that's all you want and you're interested in, but for me, it doesn't work for my personality. And it's just, there's a practical component, because a concert pianist isn't operating from the same philosophy, the same approach, the same technical skill, the same practical level. They're not operating really at all in any way, shape, or form similar to the way that they were operating when they first started. That's kind of obvious. But for some reason, when it comes to an esoteric practice or a chi practice, people like somehow assume that it's not, that doesn't apply. So for me, that's never really made sense. So anyways, let me get back to what I was talking about. So also, we're going to spend a lot of time learning to stretch and open and prepare the body for practice, meaning because we want to really start to build the most efficient structure for what we're trying to do, for the specific practice and the specific results and the specific qualities that we're trying to create. We need to condition and prepare the body in a certain way. So the way we learn to stretch and move is different than a lot of other things, because it's specific to what we're trying to do and cultivate, which is Qigong. And when I used the term Nei Gong earlier, it's because I'm talking about Qigong within the context of a Nei Gong process. Meaning Nei Gong in and of itself isn't really, oh, I'm doing Nei Gong right now. I'm doing Nei Gong. It's like, well, yes, but really it's a larger process. It's a larger thing of internal transformation, which Qigong can be a tool to assist in, as well as other tools can be a part of that. So we'll be looking at learning how to stretch, open, and prepare the body for practice. And honestly, just doing that can be really extremely beneficial and really helpful. It's quite nice. And then also looking at building the most efficient, not building, but starting to shape and condition the most efficient quality of mind and the right attitude for practice. Because those are very specific things. Because there's a pretty large connection between the quality of your mind and the quality of your tissues, and the way in which those two things interact. And then we'll be looking at building the most efficient Wu-Ji posture, which Wu-Ji could be a lot of things, but basically within the context of this, it's just specific posture we are using and building to try to shape the body in the right way to create the right conditions and qualities to move through the process. And then as a really important part of Qigong, of Wu-Ji, of Nei Gong in general, is the Qua. Learning to open the Qua, mobilize the Qua, loosen it, relax it, and be able to actually move from that. And also, for a lot of people, figuring out what the hell's the Qua? What does that even mean? Why is that important? Because you'd be shocked at how overlooked a lot of these basic fundamentals are. And then we'll get into exploring the nature of activating and working with the lower Dantian, and looking at the philosophy of that, the theory, the practical application, the practice, and really the foundational stages, and how that all relates to the larger process of Qigong and Nei Gong and Daoist cosmology in general. So it all goes together and connects. And then we will look at some basic 5-element Qigong exercises, because that will take, the stretching we've learned, the Qua movements, the Wuji posture, the philosophy, the application, the theory, that all becomes applied and active in the practice. So we'll start looking at that, and really the 5-element set is to start to balance and be able to work with the 5 elemental pulses in the body. And lastly, we'll be looking at how to establish and organize a personal practice. So I'll literally give you, here's a literal practice routine, 15 minutes on this, 15 minutes on that, 30 minutes on this, whatever. So you'll walk away with a lot of practical theory. Some of it will go over your head, some of it will be for later, some of it will make sense now, but a lot of it will be recorded, and obviously you can take notes, so you'll have it, and that will help set up a foundation to keep coming back to. And all the practical stuff to work on and practice, and in a structured, linear sense, meaning like, okay, here's what we're trying to do, and here's where we're going, and here's how we're going to start that process, and here's what we need to work on right now. And as we build these things, we can build more things on top of it and really grow and move and expand and transform and start to build the foundations for actual real skill. And then all of that culminates in you leaving the workshop really empowered to have your own practice and know what to do, when to do it, how much to do it, and what to practice, and specifically why you're doing it, and the benefits of it, the drawbacks, signs and symptoms to look out for, how to know if you're actually doing it, if you're actually going in the right direction, or if you're going in the wrong direction. A lot of just very specific, clear things, so that really all that's left to do is just practice. I mean, so that's really, a lot of it's can be very simple, and it is literally foundational, but I'm telling you from personal experience and from what I've learned from pretty much everyone I've learned from, it's just the foundations are really where it's at, and you have to build those. And if you don't build those, it doesn't happen. And basically 99% of people skip the foundations, don't build the foundations, don't want to, don't look at them, or don't know about them. So really glass ceiling and peak out really a lot. And I guess one thing I could say about that is, the thing is with Qigong, eventually you just don't do it anymore because you have the skill. So if you meet someone like, I've been doing Qigong for 40 years, it's like, have you? Because, it seems like you should have had mastery over Qi, so then you can move on to deeper aspects of the practice. Because we talk about Daoism. What is Dao? Dao is like a path, meaning you walk a path. It's not like Dao is whatever I interpret it to be, because it's everything and nothing, and something and nothing and everything all at the same time. Actually, no, that's not Daoism. I'm not sure what that is. That's not Daoism. It's not what it means. It's not what the words mean. It's not what any of the philosophies imply. So it's kind of confusing when people get off on that. So the word literally is implying path. Start off basic foundations, develop skills and qualities, and then continually build on those skills and qualities and transform along a path. That's just what the words mean, in a very practical, tangible, real way. And I guess that's another misconception about Qigong and Nei Gong and Daoism in general, is that it's somehow intangible, or you can't talk about it, you can't define it. It's like, no, you can. They were very clear about pretty much everything. Now, does that mean you can find a book and read about it? Probably not. Does that mean you can very likely to find a teacher or a practitioner in the modern world that knows about it? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. It just means that that's sort of what's commonplace. Which, if you think about what's commonplace, usually it's not very powerful, because it can't be, because it's commonplace, relatively speaking. Obviously, if you look at the grand scale of society, Daoism and Qigong doesn't really, that's not commonplace actually. But then you get into that world and then see what's commonplace there. That's what I mean. So I think that really, so I encourage you to check the page and read more about stuff that I didn't cover. And now I guess I kind of need to be a little bit of a dick, I guess, and have some disclaimers and warnings and just information for myself as a teacher and a human being, and for you as well. Just because I don't want to waste anyone's time and offend anyone or give anyone the wrong idea. I just want to be very clear, because really on my end, my goal, my intention is to really be as clear as possible, present things in the best way possible, as accessible as possible, so that really, like I said, what's left to do is kind of just practice. And these things are clear, so you know what to do, and you can just do it. So for me, that's the most I can do, and that's what I strive to do and have strived to do for a long time. And through that, being honest, being transparent, being nice, being thoughtful, being considerate, all of these things are, and respectful. That's what I'm trying to do, and that's how I will teach, and that's how I'll present the information. So I expect that in return, at least to some degree, at least coming to meet me some. If that makes sense. And the reason why I say that is because literally already I've just straight up deleted people and blocked people and ignored people, because for whatever reason I just post a video like this or a link to a workshop, for some reason they see it as a necessary opportunity to be really rude or mean or confrontational, and I don't understand that, and just generally disrespectful, because I'm not presenting any of these things in a disrespectful way, and I'm not being mean, and I'm being honest and kind of straightforward and transparent. So if someone's meeting me with confrontation or harshness or extreme judgment or just nastiness and rudeness, I have literally no time for that, like none. I just don't care, because there are also a lot of other people that are open and receptive. So why am I going to waste my time trying to work with someone who's just straight up mean or harsh or confrontational or rude, when there's just no reason for it. It just doesn't. That doesn't mean we have to agree. You can disagree with me. You can say, "Oh, I don't agree with that," or "I don't like that," or "That's not for me." Okay, then be an adult and recognize and be honest and straightforward with your feelings and own up to them, and that's totally cool. I don't I don't expect people to like me all the time or agree with me or want to be into what I'm into or see things in the same way, or none of that stuff. That's fine. I completely have enough self-awareness to understand the unique flavor of what I'm doing and what I'm presenting, and also just who I am and my personality. I totally get that. However, respect, consideration, maturity, boundaries, those are all kind of fairly universal. So basically what I'm saying is, if people are exhibiting these things towards me, I'm out. I'm not going to engage whatsoever. Which we'll see. There'll probably be some stuff on the video. People are like, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I learned from this teacher. Oh, I learned from this book. Oh, you're wrong. Oh, you're not qualified. Oh, you're too young." Like, people will just start projecting and making up all this stuff and like drilling at me. Maybe, maybe not. I hope not, because it's unfortunate and it makes me sad. It hurts my feelings, because I wish people didn't have to relate to each other in that way, but it's the internet, and sometimes people are just need to do that. So I also just need to not have time for it. That is said, people are respectful, receptive, open, considerate. Even if they don't like me or disagree with me, that's totally fine. Totally open to that. It's just I think you get the point by now. I move on. So the other caveat and warning is that this is not like a medical Qigong workshop, meaning like, come to my workshop and I'm gonna specifically teach you this heart exercise and it's gonna open your heart and make you healthy. That's not the focus. That's not to say that the process and the practice doesn't have benefits for your health, because it absolutely does. It's not to say that it doesn't have the potential to transform your mind and the quality of your energy and your spiritual outlook. Absolutely does. But those are generally side effects of developing the skill, of developing the qualities and moving through the process. They're not like the aim. Like, oh, if I do this exercise 20 times, it's going to heal my heart. If I just visualize it so big, it's going to heal my heart. It's like, that's not our aim. That's not how we're working with things. And in my opinion, that's not that effective. It's just my opinion. So that's to say our focus isn't just on gentle rest and relaxation, meaning I'm not going to be up in the front of the room being like, follow me, follow my movements. Oh, I'm going to talk calmly and relax you into a deep trance, nice-like state. Buddhas are going to show us the way to our infinite oneness. No, like it's not it. It's, again, skills, qualities, practice, empowerment. That's what we're doing. The reason is because we're focusing on practicing classical style arts, which of course and sometimes can be quite demanding and challenging, because it's not because they are necessarily that. I mean, they are, but growth in general is those things. If you want to learn any new skill, it's challenging, it's demanding, you have to practice. It sucks sometimes, it's uncomfortable sometimes, it's awkward, you're fumbling, it's frustrating, you feel like you're not making any progress, you get upset, you get impatient. That's all part of it. It all happens. That's just growing. But then eventually you start to develop skill for that, so you learn to work with it more and enjoy the process and just have a different relationship to it. So that's why what we're doing is going to be probably very different than other classes, other teachers, other systems, other approaches, what's on YouTube, what you've seen, what you've heard, It's going to be very different, most likely. I don't know, because I haven't seen absolutely everything, but I've seen a lot of stuff in the last 10 years, and I can say that it's different. And I just mention that because literally I have friends that have started teaching, and I've heard stories from my teachers, and it's people will literally show up, have all these preconceptions, which is strange because it's like, did you not see who the person was? Did you not read the flyer? Did you not maybe look at a YouTube video or do any type of preparation or consideration? You just projected and assumed that this thing would be exactly like everything else that you knew and were familiar with in the past. That seems strange. I don't really understand that. It's also like, I don't know, I guess people do that in relationships too. They just objectify something and assume, oh, well, you are what I think that you should be, so I'm not gonna actually relate or engage with you, so then when you're not, I'm upset. So what happens is, people show up and get upset and be like, oh, this is too hard, you should be different, this is different than what I learned from YouTube, or I've been doing Qigong for 12 years and this is different, so this is wrong, and just start doing all this stuff. It's like, why did you come? It's like, did you come to argue? Did you come to feel validated? Did you not think about it? Or did you just want to come and be the Qigong whiz, so you could meet everyone in the workshop and be like, I've been doing Qigong for 15 years. I've studied with this teacher and this teacher and this teacher and this teacher. I went to China, I went to Japan, I went to Taiwan, I went to Thailand, I did this retreat, that retreat, reading all these books. You just want to tell everyone that, and it's like, okay, and? Is that necessary? I mean, it seems like a bit excessive, because if you have one thing that actually has the process, the theory, the application, the cosmology, and the systematic all there intact, seems like you just do that because that's the skill you're trying to build and cultivate, but you haven't and you aren't, so I'm just really confused on what these words even mean and how we're even using them, just in a practical sense. I'm just confused. And maybe that is a little bit mean of me to say, but I can just say, as a student going to things. I've seen that. Not a lot, but it does happen. And like I said, I've heard from other teachers that people have shown up and been really upset. So that's why I'm just trying to be as honest and straightforward and clear as possible and say that pretty much if you want something that is engaging, challenging, demanding, then I hope that that's what I'll be sharing. And I don't mean those words in like it's going to be like a boot camp and I'm going to be yelling at you and I'm going to be judging you and I'm going to be mean to you, like, oh, how dare you be tired, oh, how dare, like, it's not the attitude. Because we're doing Qigong, people. It's not military training, like it's not martial arts, it's not kung fu, it's not what we're doing. That's not what I mean. It's just like maybe we'll have to stand a lot and that's sore, that makes you tired, like you'll be worked because it's a workout and it's a process like anything. But again, it's weird, I have to say these so obvious like basic things because what's in the world is sometimes so distorted, but I just really want to be clear, and it's my first time and for doing this stuff, so I'm just trying to be more thorough. And also something that's just very clear and practical, meaning it's not asking you to believe in things or put faith in me or worship anything. It's just pretty much skills and practice is what it really comes down to, and sharing the why, the how that all relates to the bigger picture and how that relates to a larger process of internal transformation, which to me really fits my personality because it's just how my mind works, and it there's enough stuff that I've learned, it just occupies and fills the blanks so that I'm like, cool, I can't wait to practice. Like I really want to practice and really just dive into this stuff. But that's me. I'm again a bit of a freak, a bit of a weirdo, I guess. And also, last thing, and most importantly, is sense of humor is mandatory, because it's not going to be a serious thing. It's like, oh, this is my spiritual practice. Working on my spiritual stuff right now. I'm so serious. That's not really ideal for Qigong, because that mindset is contracted and tight and like, which if we're trying to move and have expansion and transformation, then we can very obviously see that that mindset is not conducive to any of the things that we're trying to do. So laughter is like a expansive force. So, you know, it will be a difficult class and a challenging class, but also be really fun and enjoyable and funny, you know, and lighthearted, and you know, that's what that will be my intention, to create that environment and share things in that way. So if that sounds enjoyable or attractive to you, then I highly recommend going to the workshop. And if you're coming from out of town, which you probably are, I'm happy to assist with like where to stay and how to navigate around the city, or good restaurants, or best place to stay in and how to get around, or basically just simple practical like logistics. Happy to assist in that via email, absolutely not through YouTube comments. So don't be like, oh, where should I stay, and then get mad because I didn't respond because you put it on YouTube, but it be through email. And then also, I guess the last point is a couple things, and I'm going to also be slightly a bit of a dick, but also just a little bit pushing people. One thing is, like, for years, people have consistently said things to me via YouTube and email and Facebook, and like, oh, you should teach classes. And I'm like, I've been teaching classes since 2012 on Hyperion Academy. Oh, you should write a book. I've written many books that are on Amazon. Actually, I think there's only one on Amazon, but there's a few on Hyperion Herbs, and there's some few or the rest on Hyperion Academy. So it's like, been doing it. That's one thing. It's a little bit mean, but it's also just like, hey, been doing it. But Well, how it relates to this is people saying, "Oh, teach workshops." So it's like, hey, now I'm teaching a workshop, so you should come. Um, and then people, it's like, "Oh, I just wish you were closer, or I wish you lived in my city." And that type of mindset I want to address from my own experience as well. First is obviously, if people don't have money, they don't have resources, they don't have the time or the space, completely understandable. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. Nothing I can do about that. So it is what it is. Yet there are, so what I'll say is, for example, I've traveled a ton over the years, and I will be continuing to travel a ton for the foreseeable future, because the odds of someone of really high skill and quality and accessibility being in your city, slim to none. So that sort of implies you're gonna need to travel. That also begs the question, how important is this stuff to you? What role does it play in your life? Is it a casual hobby? Is it for, egoic spiritual validation? Is it for medical reasons? Is it for health reasons? Is it for relaxation? Is it for a deep passion and drive? What is it? I'm not saying any one of those is good or bad, right or wrong, better or worse. Not at all. I'm just saying, for me, it's an important question to ask. And for me, these arts are so important and valuable that I haven't really cared about much else since I was about 14 or 15. And I've just been doing what I could ever since to basically get and access and practice the stuff. And then what I did is, when I actually found teachers, I actually practiced what they taught. And when they talked to me, I actually listened. So basically now I'm kind of giving you obvious secrets that a lot of people don't necessarily get, but I've applied them and used them, and they've been quite resourceful. And my friends and colleagues and people that I know that have also used them, it's been quite resourceful and helpful for them. But it's shocking how much we all miss them, because I do. I mean, the number one downfall of, or the number one, what's the word, mistake or stumbling block or blockage or whatever, in especially something esoteric or spiritual or chi based, is delusion. Like, the room, our human potential for delusion is profound. So the amount at which we can delude ourselves is huge. The amount at which we are all deluding ourselves, pretty big, myself included. And it's just a process of getting older, getting more mature, developing more awareness, and learning to not delude yourself so much anymore. But especially as it relates to anything esoteric, especially the delusion is like even more. Because in a very practical way, every stage of the process has clear signs and symptoms. This has happened. This hasn't. This is open. This isn't. You have this skill. You don't. Here's the 5 to 10 ways we can ascertain that. And here's how it relates to what came before it. Here's how it relates to what comes after it. It's very clear, very obvious, very tangible, not at all vague or open for interpretation. Thus, the role for delusion becomes minimized. And that's also an underlying mechanism for a lot of the things that I've said, is trying to minimize that. But it's like we're all working through it. So again, it's understand that we're all doing everything wrong. From the perspective of Daoism, that's what they're saying. But we can move through a path and a process to do it less wrong and eventually get more closer to Tao or truth or more efficiency and effectiveness. I don't know how you want to describe it. But the point of that story is, this stuff's really important to me. I travel. I've invested a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources. I've made lots of sacrifices, and it's just been completely worth it across the board. But that's how I look at it. To me, it's important, yes, but it's like, that's just how I treat things that I'm passionate and inspired about, and things that are impactful for me. So I think it's just something to kind of, get in touch with. And also just really understanding these things aren't things you can learn from books or videos or DVDs. I mean, sure, you can go, arm goes here, arm goes there, now it goes here, now it goes there. But honestly, that has so little to do with the actual practice and process that it's almost like shocking in some ways. So the reason why I said these things is because you have a good teacher who has these things intact, who understands these things. So it becomes very clear to understand what you're actually doing, why you're doing it, and if it's actually happening or working, or if you're just wasting your time, or if you're injuring yourself, or going in the wrong direction, or practicing incorrectly, or all of the myriad of ways in which it could all completely go wrong and completely go to shit. Because that legitimately does happen. It's not super common, because generally have to work a while before the practice is so potent that it can do you harm. But even from the beginning, if it's done incorrectly, there can be negative side effects. Sure, they might take 3 to 6 months to manifest, but still, why would you want to waste your time and energy doing something incorrectly, or just relying on your own delusion, or like, oh, I'll figure it out myself, and the spiritual path is found within, and I don't need this, and I don't need that. It's like, yeah, I'm not disagreeing, because there's truth in all of that stuff. It's just also, we're talking about something very practical, very tangible, and a very specific process, a very specific methodology, very specific things with it. So it's really important to have these things in place. Anyways, that was a bit of a tangent, kind of got lost. But the last thing I'll say is, really my aim is to start doing these workshops more regularly, but basically just develop a core group of people that are interested, engaged, and practicing, and just really teach them, and then ideally just working with them. And because there's different formats, I could do just like, come to my Thursday night class. I really don't have any interest in that, especially to begin, because there's just so much ground we need to cover that I feel bad as like a teacher or someone sharing something, because I want the student or the person to get the most out of it they can and have the greatest experience and move through things in the most efficient and effective way absolutely possible. So I feel like 90 minutes, 2 hours, like that's nothing. Like we can't meet those things. I can't really empower people with that much in such a little time. So that's why I'm doing weekend workshop, 2 days, which that will give people plenty of practice time, so that when they leave, they know what to do and why to do it and when to do it, and how much to do it, and what not to do and what to look for, and these various things, and also access to me on an ongoing basis to ask questions. And the point of this is doing ongoing workshops and trainings and having a group of people that move through, because as people develop skill in that group, we can do more things, we can learn new things, we can do other practices, we can go deeper, we can have more fun. It can be a whole awesome thing. But we got to start, from the beginning and do the foundations correctly and start off on the right foot. So that's kind of why I wanted to make this video and say a lot of these things, and just have more clarity. I didn't realize it would be so long, but it's just some important things, and I apologize if some things made me look like a dick or whatever, but I just wanted to just be as clear and honest and straightforward and transparent and authentic as possible, just to not waste anyone's time and not misrepresent myself or what I'm sharing or what it is and what it does. And just, yeah, that was really the reason behind it. Also because it's pretty new to me, so I'm just kind of interested to jump into it and learn and interact with people and see how it all shakes out. So it's pretty exciting process, exciting time, and I think if you've enjoyed my videos or enjoyed things that I've shared over the years, then I think this is really the next step, and this is really where I've been trying to work towards for probably 10 years. And this is probably going to be my focus, my thing, I still will probably post some videos, but I'm sure the change has been somewhat obvious over the years, and it's just going to keep going. It's not really up to me or under my control or jurisdiction. I'm just kind of going with it. So yeah, I'm really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun, at least for me. Again, if you have questions, need help with anything, let me know. Preferably through email, through my website, and I'll talk to you soon.